Hello, this is Isaac from Turn Sounds. When addressing a crowd, make sure you face the right direction.
Welcome to Just Keep Walking. This is a podcast focused on the Walking Dead universe. Today we're talking about Season 1, Episode 1 of Dead City. And excited to be back. Good to have an opportunity to chat again. My name's Ben, joined today by...
Liam.
And...
I am Walker Isaac.
Walker Isaac.
Walker Isaac, because you got the flannel shirt?
Yeah.
Yeah, muted colours. They've always got you kind of a bright fluoro Walker.
That's it.
There you go.
Well, we won't hold our breath. You know, this show is only right at its start.
True.
So,
Yeah.
true.
Cool.
New rules, who knows?
Yeah, who knows? So today we're going to pretty much give our thoughts on the episode. At the end, there's a few random things we can talk about. There's Fear the Walking Dead, which just reached the mid-season finale today. There's a few interesting things going on there. So we'll save that to the end, but pretty much let's not waste any time and let's dive straight into it. Liam, what were your first impressions of this episode?
Alrighty. In the words of good old Samuel L. Jackson, hold on to your butts.
No.
I've had it. Okay.
With
That's
these
coming for the
monkey
next one.
fighting snakes on this Monday to Friday play.
I like that. I like that a lot.
That's the actual TV version, right?
Really? No, I didn't.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Wow.
I need to watch the TV version now.
Yeah.
Look, we went in, so Isaac and I caught up yesterday, and we both agreed that we would go in with a very... Oh, I've just cut...
Sorry, keep talking. I'm trying to find my volume.
My volume just dipped. We both agreed that we'll go in with high expectations. We'll go in expecting that this is going to be great, rather than going in thinking, this isn't probably going to be all that great.
The best TV show ever made.
That was
Wow.
the anticipation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Honestly, I thought it was terrible.
Yeah, okay, right. It does make you question if that's the right approach or if you should expect it to be bad and then be somewhat pleasantly surprised if it's just okay.
I'm trying that for episode 2.
Yeah, okay, all right. We'll switch up the techniques.
Yeah, look, I wasn't a fan.
Not a fan. All right, cool. Isaac, what do you reckon?
Mixed bag from me. Some things I think it did really well. Some cool new additions to like the lore, if you will. But to put it in an analogy, it's like if you went to like an all-day breakfast place, which there really aren't enough of those around. But
Yeah.
and you ordered something amazing, something you really want, just like a beautiful bacon and eggs and whatever. And then your order comes to you, and it's like half-cooked eggs and like the worst bits of the bacon. You still
Right.
got what it said on the
It
menu.
is bacon and eggs.
But yeah.
Right, yeah.
It's a good way to
Okay.
put it.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Good
All
way
day
to put it.
breakfast. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I'd agree with that analogy to an extent. I guess for me, I probably had lower expectations than you guys, maybe. Particularly, they've told us what we're in for. It's all the images and everything sort of leading up to it, showing us that it's very much not the original show anymore. This is sort of just a new thing they're doing. So it's like, at least we got something. That's kind of my approach to it. And yeah, I'm not blown away. I don't hate it. Part of which we'll talk about a bit later is because I've just come straight off of Fear the Walking Dead, where the writing is absolutely atrocious. Literally, like every 30 seconds, the characters do something that just makes you go, "What?
What?
Huh?"
Oh, God.
So there wasn't as much of that here, which is at least one step in the right direction. But there wasn't much particularly that stood out as being all that great either. So yeah, it's all right. It's not enough to make me stop watching by any means. It's the sort of thing where it's like, we'll see what they got for us.
Yeah, and if I could add as well, pretty much the same for me. Like we watched episode 1 of season 2 of Well Beyond, and I think both myself and Liam, like correct me if I'm wrong here, but both of us were kind of like, we'll let Ben watch this one and just sort
No,
of
I didn't even keep watching after that.
yeah.
Don't blame you.
This isn't one of those. Like I'm
Yeah.
still in this, and I'll gladly meet up with you guys next week to sort of see what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
All right.
I'm keen.
I'm definitely still keen.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, no, that's a good way to put it. World Beyond as well is the sort of thing where this whole franchise, to an extent, has set the bar so low that if it's passable, you're not upset at least. I would say definitely I think they could and should have made more of an effort to prove to us why we should be giving them our time.
Yeah.
It sort of, seemed a bit like, with all the mysteries they're setting up, like, I don't know if they even are trying to set up mysteries or if it's just that we're supposed to accept that this is the world now that is there's rangers controlling everything and stuff like that, or marshals. So it kind of sets up mysteries, but I don't know if that's actually a clever intentional thing or if they were just a bit lazy and just couldn't be bothered doing it in an intriguing way. So I would have liked it to start off with a bit more of a bridge of here's where we left off and here's how we got here, or at least promise that we're going to find that out. But it almost seems like, just don't think about that. This is just where we are now.
Well, they kind of tried to do that as best they could with things like, you remember Hilltop? Yeah, that's all burnt down, and now we're in a new place. That way they don't have to like bring the old set back and everything. Like,
even though it was in the finale after it had been burnt down and it had been rebuilt.
Really?
I was thinking that was the case. I'm glad you said that. I'm like, am I going crazy? Are they gaslighting me?
Pun. But yeah, and then things like I was trying to like pull all the stuff I could, but like in the beginning where Maggie's saying to Negan, "You remember this?" and I was like, if someone hasn't watched Walking Dead, what? That's the most obscure, But yeah, so like as far as pulling things from the other show and what we're expected to know from the other show, even like when she asks like, "Where's Annie and your kid?" Daughter? I don't know what.
Yeah, well, I think his wife was pregnant last time we saw her in the main show. And then there was a time skip, so we assumed that they had a baby, but we didn't see anything.
But yeah, no answers there. Like not a single answer. Like they're fine or whatever, or they died, or nothing. Yeah.
Which is frustrating, given that, like, you look at the original show with the wife and the soon-to-be daughter. For me personally, I'm like, it felt a little bit strange. It felt a little bit forced. And now, by the looks of it, they may have... Well, who knows? Maybe they'll come back in later episodes, but it almost seems like, again, similar to the Hilltop, where it's like, don't think about that. Don't worry about that.
I would say probably what it feels like overall, and I don't think this is the case. It could be, but it feels like they had a concept and an idea for an original show. And then someone said, "Oh no, we have to make that part of Walking Dead and put some of the main characters in it." So, okay, we'll just make Maggie and Negan the main characters in this other show that doesn't connect at all to Walking Dead. Like it, just the tone, everything about it. It doesn't feel like they were in a place of saying, okay, here's where these characters leave off. Where could we take them in an interesting direction? It feels more like, let's just shoehorn them into this other story idea we've got. Would you guys?
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, I kind of take issue a little bit with this idea of life goes on. I know it's supposed to be like a happy sort of sentiment in a way, but this idea, like, it's so random. But we just all watched like a 5-second clip of the Daryl Dixon promotion.
Two
thing,
shots.
where he's like on a capsized boat that's like he's tied to it and he's unconscious and whatever. And it's like, this is not the hopeful Daryl Dixon that you saw riding away on a motorbike going to look for Rick or whatever. Now in this show, something really bad has happened to him, and it's kind of like your characters can't just have their forever after or their triumphant adventures. We need to see them at their lowest, like. And so even this show now with like Maggie, her son's gone. There's this whole they're being raided by a group of new people, and Negan's something's gonna happen to Negan in this show. I'll bet you this is his exit. This show,
right?
I'm guessing so. Unfortunately, but yeah, I just wish we could let people, live happily ever after.
Right. Yeah.
New adventures, fine, cool. Like, and if that's what this show is gonna end up being, and maybe Maggie finds it in herself to finally let go and actually properly forgive Negan. I don't know.
Yeah.
I got a couple of notes on this.
Okay. Yeah. You look like you had something to say, Liam.
I'm trying to think now, because one of the things I was thinking of through this episode is, did she forgive Negan? I feel like she said something along the lines of, "I forgive you, but I'm never going to forget." Was it
more or less? Like I think she said like, "I've been trying to forgive you, but I can't."
That's
but
right.
you can
Yeah.
you can stay around, and I just might not be able to like look at you.
That's right. Yeah.
Something
Some
along
days I
those
won't be able
lines.
to face you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's coming back to me now. See, with that in mind, I understand, and I'm glad that they did address it into this episode. That was some of the saving grace, how there's a little bit of PTSD given that Herschel's been kidnapped. But initially, right off the bat, I wasn't a fan of, we went from that, you know, almost like a happily ever after, I suppose you could call it, at the end of The Walking Dead, to Maggie sees Negan and Maggie's like, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
That I wasn't a fan of. That was way too jarring.
Sure. Yeah, and I mean, also, I guess just, I don't know, would you have liked for there to be another episode before this one, I guess, where we actually see the Herschel get kidnapped and then Maggie decides, oh, I need help, let's go find Negan. And it could be more of that sort of thing rather than
That would
the
definitely...
reluctant.
Yeah, I think that would help in, I suppose, like you said, making us care about the whole story. Because at the moment, yeah, like I don't feel like they've warranted our attention.
Yeah.
So that would have helped with that, I think. But I think if they want to go down the path of, you know, Maggie going backwards in how she's feeling towards Negan and all the PTSD stuff, I feel like there needs to have been like a better trigger rather than, oh, Herschel's not here. Now all of a sudden Negan is the devil. I think it would have been better if maybe she bumps into Negan and she sees Negan smack someone over the head and it brings that, like that flashback she had. That would have been perfect to place if that's, what was it, Marshall, that junior Marshall lover? If he had decided to kill him and he pops him over the head, all of a sudden she gets flashbacks like, oh, this is the man who did the same thing to my husband.
Yeah.
That would have been a lot better, I think.
Yeah.
Because was it sorry?
No.
Was there a little bit for that for you at all? Because we've talked about this on the other show, where it's kind of like this has been quite a long time ago now. The whole like bashing and everything.
Sure.
And it was brought up so graphically again in this episode, just like
Really surprising.
remember this, don't forget this, and it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, and leave alone what Liam did to us today. Should we tell the listeners
We've
about that?
almost got to insert it in the podcast.
You should.
I've got a way to do it right now.
All
if we can.
right. Hey, you've spent the time getting that ready. Go for it.
Did you turn it into a soundbite? Is that what you did?
No, I've just got our Facebook messages things here connected through the Bluetooth.
Yeah.
Do we want the full saga or do we want just
Yeah,
his?
give
There's
like
gotta be
20
context.
seconds of context.
Well, that's all that'll take it. So pretty much, I was this is dreadful. Oh man! So I was thinking to myself, all right, we're gonna have a meetup time tonight. Let's message the group, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna send a voice message. Let's put on my best Rick, and to kind of cue myself in, I was like, what's my cue word for like getting into the Rick accent, which I still don't think I got, by the way. But I was like, it's like a flu or something. It's a flu, and then like hit record and then started. But let's see if this works.
Not sure when you want to watch and record, but 7:30 seems like a good time. Do stuff and things.
All right, to which
Smooth.
Ben replied, very well.
Little pig, let me in at 7:30 on the dot.
And we're like, okay, smooth. I was glad
Right.
that Ben played ball and you went along. And then we got this from Liam.
Maggie, I'll find you at 7:30.
Dreadful.
So long.
Dreadful. You had no right to do that to us.
I gotta redeem myself here. So I heard your impression was good. Ben's was incredible. That was a great Negan. I'm like, I've got to top this, man. And there was a message straight after both of those two voice messages where Isaac sends through, "Don't let us down, Liam."
I was expecting some kind of like Daryl, because he does a neat Daryl. Or like some kind of even alpha impression. That's pretty easy.
Yeah, but I thought I got to subvert your expectations a little bit. I got to throw you a curveball.
Ugh.
So
All this is to say, the traumatic memory of Glenn's death was fresh in our minds already,
Yeah.
thanks to Liam.
if you think that was traumatizing, imagine what my neighbors thought when they looked at me as I recorded that in my car.
What's wrong with this guy?
I thought you were doing like a Walker impression at first. I was like, oh, He's gonna.
Nope.
Nope.
Listening back to that, I'm like, you know what? The voice wasn't great, but the whole spluttering and stuff,
Yeah.
that was pretty good.
Yeah.
Pat yourself on the back.
Yeah, I can imitate Dead Glenn. Yeah.
There you go.
All right.
So yeah, I mean, it is a question, I guess, of like, do they have to now restart the arc of forgiveness
Yeah.
to fit this new show? Because I'm glad they tied it up to some extent in the main show. That would have been unsatisfying if they left it for a spin-off. But at the same time, then you've got to kind of commit to, all right, we've left this in the past, and if you do it again, you've got to really come up with a new angle, which it doesn't quite feel like they've done. Hey. So yeah, I mean, we'll see how we go. I feel like there's probably not going to be too much of that back and forth. I feel like they had to put something in the first episode,
Right.
but at least hopefully it's not going to be a constant thing of like, oh, remember what you did.
Well, because it's friction, right, between the two
Yeah.
of them, and it's also like because she's got all of this angst because of what he's done. She's deliberately not telling him the plan and like keeping all the power to herself, and like he calls her out on that straight away about like, you know, you've been taking little jabs at me, like, and I get it, whatever, but yeah, you're right. It's like a first episode thing just so that we have that established that they're not getting along. That way,
Yeah.
when, you know, she's falling off a cliff and he reaches out and pulls her back up, I'm calling it's going to be she's falling from some building and he's going to pull her back up. That'll actually mean a bit more because
Yeah.
she's going to have to reach out and actually grab his hand.
I'd say my main issue with it and just the feeling of it all is that we don't know what's going on really. Like we don't know why Negan's out here at this random bar and why Maggie's looking like, has Maggie been looking for him for like a month? Like, because it would be the sort of thing where like if Herschel got taken, Maggie went to Commonwealth and said, hey Negan, look, Herschel's been taken. I don't know who else could help me with this. I really need you owe me a favor sort of thing. Then at least we would have all the context and we could kind of work with it. Whereas this, we're already kind of trying to work out what's going on in the first place. And then there's all these dynamics where it's like, so she's been looking for him and asking him for help, but she hates him. Like, why? Yeah.
In the season finale of Walking Dead, did he not just go off on his own way to go and roam the world for a while?
No, I think he was living at Commonwealth or Alexandria, one of them, because then he sent like Judith that letter with the pocket watch. And we assume that, with his wife and everything like that he's sticking around.
Oh, of course.
So yeah, it just kind of asks a lot of questions that I guess the other aspect of it is that all these questions we already had from the trailer. We know that Herschel's been kidnapped.
Yep.
Maggie and Negan are going to work together. So we've already got the intrigue, and now they've kind of set that up again rather than giving us any answers to the questions that we already had. So yeah, interesting. I feel like I guess we could fill a whole podcast with ideas that potentially could have been more interesting, which is a bit of a shame. Like, let's on the more optimistic side. What about this idea do you guys like?
I love the idea of how there's a lot of zombies or walkers in New York.
Sure.
I'm glad that they mentioned, they bombed all the bridges to try and contain it. So this place is just a desolate ground of zombies now. That I think is a really cool concept. That I really like.
Yeah, definitely. It almost like I'm fine with the name Dead City, but Isle of the Dead as well. You can see how that would have worked really well too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I like the casting. I think that they're two of the better characters. I think, much though people like Daryl, I'm kind of happy to see him off to one side at the moment.
Right, yeah.
I don't know about him getting his own show. I kind of wish that, like, maybe midway through this show, that he'd, pop in for an episode or two and it's this big, wow, Daryl's here, and then off he goes on his way, Does a
See
big
him float
motorbike
past.
jump over the bridge or something.
Lands on a boat.
Yeah. Way. Takes them all the way to France.
Nice.
Yeah. Actually, that is a good point. Yeah. But I like, the whole city thing. That's a cool concept. And it is the sort of thing where, again, with the expectations, we're coming into this kind of feeling like, all right, this is a show that was already kind of going downhill, especially budget wise and that sort of thing. And now we've got a spin-off, which it's not like a big crowd draw or anything like that. It's like, this is more for the few remaining fans are probably going to watch this. It's not going to bring in big numbers. So I wasn't expecting a lot as far as the location, the cityscape and all that. So yeah, then anytime you do see a cool set, that's like a pleasant surprise. And I think they did pretty decent. It wasn't too bad so far, at least. I just hope that they keep going through, you know, skyscraper buildings and stuff like that. Don't just use back alleys full of trash, which is probably what they will do for the most part. But
shoot it at daytime. Like there's something about this whole, like, throughout the trailers, and I'm pretty sure most of it is from just this first episode, the trailer for it that we saw. But like all of this nighttime shooting, it just seems so dark and depressing. Like right at the start of this episode, even though I didn't really care for the way all of the skyscrapers and the buildings covered with moss looked, it was during the day though. She's there on the beach scoping it out with a rather expensive lens that she smashes this zombie's face in with. But yeah, like I want to see more of that, like during the daytime, and because it's always just like shadow lit forest, you know, in like overcast days or at nighttime, and I just there's some sunny weather, like
that'd be nice.
Fair.
Yeah.
I think we will get more day stuff, but like, yeah, it's probably also a budget thing, cheaper or easier to hide effects in the background when it's dark and that sort of thing. But who knows? The cockroach thing was cool. Well, there wasn't anything particularly notable.
At first, I wondered if they were doing like an Indiana Jones thing with like real cockroaches or whatever, but I don't think so.
That's Negan's one greatest fear. Tracks all the zombies over. The rat, you weren't a big fan of, Isaac?
The rat?
In the mouth.
Oh, is that what that was?
I think that's what it was. What did you think it was?
Oh,
what did you think it was?
I thought it was like some xenomorph, like, you know, like second tongue thing that comes reaching out. I was like, is this like a... Because in the trailer as well, we see some munted looking like triple-headed zombie.
Do we?
Yeah.
I don't remember that in the trailer.
I don't know what they are, freakish looking things. And I thought like, are they moving into like zombies that have just like crazy deformities now and like... So it was a rat that was inside this.
Yeah.
I thought it was a rat.
I don't know how to
the tail was
classify
sticking out,
rodents,
wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Nasty.
There you go.
One of the things that I did like about this episode, the idea, of like, you know, walkers falling from the sky now, like, you know, this idea that I thought that it was some trap or something that they were springing, but this idea of like, they just wander off the building's edges or through the city skylines, and there's so many of them that once a couple start, they all just hear the noise and start going. And, which is something I brought up ages ago about the whole silliness of like zombies hearing noise and then going to where that noise is, like that you'd constantly be bumping into things and knocking things over, and then constant feedback loop of like, let's go this way, then this way, then this way. So
that's true.
I don't know how it goes away.
Yeah. There's not a lot of internal logic when you think about it too much. Actually, especially that was probably the biggest sin zombie-wise of this episode is the ninja zombies sneaking up. Especially so in the store or the dry cleaning place, whatever it was, where it's literally like one guy talking, listening for the slightest sound of like, is there someone moving over there? And this zombie comes all the way up to them right behind them before they notice.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Yeah.
They could have at least tried to... Because it seems they're going to be going down the route of the... I'm having a mental blank. But the changing of the...
Variants?
Variants, yes, that's the word. They could have at least tried to use that as a reason as to why it might be creeping up somehow.
We've got stealth ability now.
Yeah, where it's a little bit more self-aware that it's hunting and it needs to be quiet. And...
Yeah. That's actually an interesting thought, but I doubt they've thought that
I don't think so.
No. I mean, it's this compared to in the main show with what they've been doing forever, which is in the middle of
Yeah,
a forest with crunchy
exactly.
leaves on the ground and it'll just sneak up on them somehow.
We did reason though that if they're constantly firing guns, that they're all just deaf.
Yeah, true.
That's
Yeah.
true.
There you go. Good point.
Yeah.
Because like in that same scene, the guy's getting grabbed and he's going, "Ah, get off me!" And like the guy with the gun is just like roaming around and
Yeah.
I thought that was a bit strange, actually. That was something that really bugged me. I'm like, really? No one heard that? But if they're all deaf, that makes a lot of sense.
I have a pretty broader note on the whole law enforcement thing.
Yeah, go for
If
it.
that's all right. It's a very interesting thing anytime a story has the anti-heroes as your heroes, and so everyone in the law enforcement, the cops, who it's their job to catch them and bring them to justice, we're not rooting for them. They're the bad guys for us. And so when he has a funny name like Silver something or Pearly, I think that's his name.
Early, I think, yeah.
Pearly Armstrong.
Yeah.
Well, this says a marshal named Armstrong.
There you go.
But he did have another first name before that. So.
Yeah, I think it's Pearly, and I
Yeah.
chuckled. I was like, poor guy.
Terrible.
Parents named you Pearly. Anyway, he's saying like this guy, Negan, lined up a whole bunch of people and bashed this guy's head in with a baseball bat, and you're like, you're sitting there going, yeah, he did do that actually. That's not on at all. And then he goes on to say like he killed this magistrate and 4 other people, and you're like, oh, okay. Are you lying, or if you're telling the truth? Like, again, that's not on, but like he probably had a good reason, Negan, for doing whatever and all of that. And so straight away we have doubt for this marshal, and we're like, we don't want you to catch Negan because Negan's our guy. He's our main character. And so yeah, it's already like flipping on its head the way things should be. Even though, but then he has a whole bunch of dodgy things about like, feeds that lady to the walkers and
Yeah, right.
does a whole bunch of just, not off the book type stuff. So it's very tricky. But yeah, this idea that he's trying to do the right thing and bring Negan to justice and then saw him in half vertical ways, that's a bit much, I think. But yeah.
Yeah, there's just something about the way it's done that just is like the least interesting possible way.
Yeah.
And because there's stuff like that where it's like, yeah, if you were introduced with this character, maybe you follow him for 60 seconds or whatever, and then he comes into the bar and he's an actual person. He says, look, guys, there's this guy who killed our marshal. And there's all these stories. He's done horrible things. We need to find him and bring him to justice.
Yeah, don't come walking in with a big grimace on your face. Like
exactly.
Yeah.
Do a big, Scott Gimple monologue. Not that Scott Gimple actually wrote this, but it feels like that sort of thing where it's a movie character. It's not an actual person. And it just that for me, I don't know about you guys. That just instantly puts up a big wall that stops me from getting connected and drawn into the intrigue of the story. Would you say
Takes
the
away
same?
the realism, doesn't it?
Yeah. Can I ask you that, both of you, just for the fun of it though, if you were harboring a fugitive, I don't know if she knew that Negan was a fugitive or if he was dodgy in any way. Let's say that she didn't, but for whatever reason she still wanted to be stubborn and not say that she knew Negan. If you're in her shoes and a marshal comes in holding up a piece of paper with the guy that you do recognize but you don't want to let him know, what do you say? What do you
Are
do?
you trying to ask us if we know how
Yeah.
to get away with a lie?
Pressure's on.
Yeah, to me it was like straight up deflection. I in my head was like, why didn't she just do that? But I'm wondering if you guys have any, because she wasn't expecting it, just like you guys aren't expecting it. So
Yeah.
what do you
advanced
do?
question.
Have you seen this man?
Truth tellers sell. Sorry, liars sell. Truth tellers tell. I would just say, no, I'm really sorry. Do you know where he's like going? I'll keep an eye out. If I were to stand there and say, no, I haven't seen him, but I can look around over there. I've been in my room all day. I've been at the bar. They can tell you, like they've watched me here the whole time.
Yeah.
I'm now trying to convince this dude,
Bless you.
that I have not seen him at all. If I'm just like, no, I haven't seen him. Sorry.
Yeah. Or worse yet, not say anything. Yeah. What about you, Ben?
Yeah, well, at least, like you were saying, sort of at least play along with it. You'd say, look, can I have a closer look at the photos?
That's exactly what I was going to say. You got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You are sweating a bit though, sir. You sure you haven't?
Because they instantly, oh no, I don't know him. That kind of proves that you recognize him enough to know
Yeah.
that you know exactly who he's talking about.
Yeah, that's exactly right though. Take the thing off him. Have a good couple of seconds to look at the paper and go, I don't know.
Or if you really want to be devious, just take the paper, like you say, look at it, be like, yeah, I have seen him. Like he went that way,
Yeah.
and just send him off on a wild goose chase.
Yep.
Yeah, I have seen him, but we're in the apocalypse, right? I don't know where he lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, apparently
Yeah.
they have motels and bars in the apocalypse. now.
Yeah. Well, that I guess moves us on to a big thing. That's the kind of stuff that just really turns me off.
Yeah.
These sort of shows, I don't aesthetically, the idea of it, everything about it is just like,
Horrible.
yeah, why? It
Yeah.
doesn't fit within this world. All right,
okay.
we've got a defender. That's good.
Yeah, go for it.
Not a hard disagree, but a slight disagree. They're in this county that they've set up. I've already forgotten the name of it.
New Babylon.
That's it.
That's it.
Well done. Where it's being advertised as a place where law resides and it's safe and you can set up with your families. Families living, peacefully, picketed fences and tree-lined roads and all of these things. So it would make sense. What do people do to relax in their downtime? They like to go out and eat and sit in bars and stuff like that. So even the old saloons and country westerns back in the day, like that was the place to hang out and be. So
Yeah.
if you're setting up a time and everything again, if you're getting a community that's well established and that stuff happens like that, then cool.
So, but how big is New Babylon though? Because that's kind of the question. Like, is Manhattan part of that? Is it like a big?
Manhattan is the island where all the bridges run over to.
Yeah, but like,
And then
why
you've got
are
like
they
Brooklyn and
poking into business over in Manhattan if they're just in charge of like a little community? And with the bar, like, it kind of begs the question, like, is this like a Commonwealth size big community? Like,
I see.
how do
where
they
you're-
not
yeah.
know who? Like, they're like, oh, the marshal's coming, as if it's like this big
Yeah.
deal, and they don't know each other all well.
Well, it felt like it was on the outskirts, right? It didn't feel like it was
Yeah.
in some.
But like, to have outskirts, you've got to be pretty big scale, and it kind of it just sets up so many questions of like, is he roaming this whole area trying to like keep law and order?
Also, I don't really know. The word is going out,
Geography.
but there's an active word
Oh, right.
as far as like geologically,
Geographically?
geographically. Thank you.
Hey.
It's like where Georgia sits in America, like where the whole Walking Dead universe was, versus like all the way into like where New York and all of that
Gotcha.
is, and like the
Yeah.
outskirts of.
It's all along the one of the west or east. I don't know which coast it is,
Oh,
but you've got Georgia down here and New York up there. So,
so
it's
Georgia's
probably,
down south, and
Okay.
How much of a drive is it? Well, actually, keep in mind though that Alexandria is closer to Washington. Where's Washington?
Yeah,
There it
because that's
is.
an actual town, isn't it, Alexandria?
Which is kind of even further, well, even closer to New York. So it's not that far off. It's probably, I would guess, a 4-hour drive. Let's see what Google Maps says.
Here we
this
go.
is fantastic, Ben.
Washington.
You got to keep in mind the traffic
Hey,
now.
3
Oh,
hours,
look at
53
that.
minutes.
Good job.
Well, this is not peak hour time though, Ben. You know,
Yeah.
if you're
It
going
might
at
be
a
over there.
Swarms across the road.
exactly forecast of walkers.
Whoa.
Yeah, okay, so that doesn't seem so
I like how it
unreasonable
changes it to
then.
miles for the
Geographical, Ben.
That's funny.
Wow.
There you
Even
have
converts.
it. All this was to say, like, if from what we're used to with like Georgia and Alexandria and all of that was kind of a contained sort of universe within that area. Once you start branching out to places, even 4 hours drive away, like I take it that a place adjacent to an island that had millions or 1 point something billion people or something. Did it say that? That's insane.
Did he
It
say
can't be
billion?
that much. No, there's no
I don't
way.
think he said billion, did he?
Maybe
I think it was million.
Maybe it must have been million. There's no way. But yeah, it kind of makes sense that, adjacent to New York, over 1 million people, that there'd be enough people set up just outside there to build a big enough, once they've put themselves back together, that Yeah, they'd start to have law and order in bars, and marshals.
It makes sense. Like,
Woodbury.
it's a real place.
There it
So
is.
it makes sense, and I completely hear that. It just doesn't feel like it fits the universe.
Sure.
Like, I was thinking while I was watching it, exactly on the same train of thought as Ben, that this just doesn't feel like The Walking Dead. And I thought, what would actually turn this around to make it feel a little bit more like The Walking Dead? I think losing the neon lights with the beer things needs to go. Even if it was just like lit by candles or something, without any electricity, that would feel a little bit more Walking Dead universe-ish.
Yeah, that's a part of it as well. You can kind of find an explanation for stuff, but that doesn't mean that it feels right for the world.
Is it fair of us, though, to call this The Walking Dead? I know it says The Walking Dead, Dead City, but, like, it's The Walking Dead in the sense of that there are dead people walking. But I don't know if it's fair of us then to look at this and go, oh, it doesn't feel like The Walking Dead TV show, because it's not anymore. It's like something different.
Yeah. I guess, well, the question for that would come down to who is this show for? It's not really for new people who aren't familiar with the universe. Like, maybe there'll be a small percentage, but, like, there's not going to be many people who come to this who aren't interested in The Walking Dead. And so it really is for fans of the main show. And so you've got to ask the question, what is appealing about that show? What makes people like that? And if you kind of miss that, then I don't know.
Fair.
Would you agree with that or not quite?
Fair, but then I just wonder at the measuring stick we're using to, like, say, does it hit this mark? Does it hit this mark? And I just wonder with things like settings and characters and, you know, weapons and musical scores, like whether it's fair to compare it all to the thing that we know and love, mostly, and then judge it harshly because it's not that it's something different.
It's a good point, yeah.
But, yeah.
I see where you're coming from, but I feel like a good spin-off or a good show that is taking its roots from something that was quite successful that a lot of people loved, I feel like you should use that as your foundation rather than going, cool, well, this is set in the same universe. Let's write an entirely new story and just plonk it in there.
Yep.
Yeah, this doesn't feel like it has the foundations of what made The Walking Dead so great in it at all at this stage.
Right. Okay.
Probably a big thing for me would be the transition as well. At least sort of build a bridge, even though they talked about destroying bridges. There's a pun there somewhere. But yeah, like, take us on the journey from, here's what we were, here's now this show, rather than just throwing us straight into the deep end and go, what? This doesn't feel right. Like, what's even happening? That would be the main thing for me. But also just, like, it's the same thing with Daryl in France. Like, who actually thinks that's a good idea? And same with a lot of this, where the promo stills were like, Maggie sitting in a neon bar, and there's like, there's cowboys roaming everywhere. There's things that you kind of could make it work if you, like, introduce it in the right way, but they've just, it's as if we already are on board with this as a cool idea, which I think they need to do a bit more to get us to that point.
Or, like, go completely, like, full swing where it's, like, almost like, always forget the name of this. Futuristic, what's the thing? Ridley Scott. Come on, Blade Runner.
Oh, right.
Thank you. Like, if they went, like, it's the year 2140 or something like that, you know, but in the Walking Dead universe, like, that, and then, like, all the neon stuff everywhere, and you've got highly fun, you know, like, stupid, but something like that, where it's, like, far enough away from, because this is only a couple of weeks out from the last season, isn't it, as far as time?
I would say
I thought it was years,
because, like, Herschel's grown up a fair bit.
Yeah.
Has it? Oh, okay.
There's a new actor anyway, so, like, it's hard to tell to an extent, but at least from...
Maggie, one of Negan or Maggie mentioned at some point in this episode something about years. Or something to that extent. So I feel like it's definitely been a fair few years.
Okay, but I'm talking years, decades and decades, enough that you can remove it from all the settings that we know and recognize.
Sure, yeah. And the only thing I guess I would add to that is that, sure, you can do that. Go for it, introduce new ideas as much as you want, but it's got to be, like, an interesting, cool idea that we can get on board with easily. And at least for me, hopefully some people don't feel the same way, but for me, straight away I'm like, I just don't really like this aesthetic.
Yeah.
Like the feel of it is just not really what I'm looking for from this type of show.
Yeah,
But,
definitely.
so exactly the same with World Beyond. Like, who wanted a tween drama show? Like, literally, who asked for that?
Yeah.
And so you just have to ask that question: who are they making this for? Who do they think is going to find these kind of ideas interesting?
Who's making the decisions?
Yeah.
Who is the showrunner for this one?
It was a new name. I didn't
Seymour
recognize
Butts.
it.
Yeah.
But
Eli.
Eli, there we go. Eli Jorn.
Okay. What's this intro? How do we feel about this intro? Like, I like the style of it, but like the music is just like very lacking to me.
Yeah, a little bit
Yeah.
lackluster. Hey.
I
far.
kind of if I enjoyed this episode more, I feel like I would have enjoyed that title a bit more
Sure.
because it was very dark and very ominous. I thought like, oh, okay, this is interesting. This is setting this up to be pretty dark and gritty. But
The visuals of it are nice at the very least.
It's kind
Visuals are
of
good.
Dawn of the Dead. I don't know if you guys ever saw the original.
As in the original.
Oh, I don't know if there's an original before
There's
the
like a
original.
black and white one, and there's a Zack
no.
Snyder one.
was it black and
Well,
white? It
I'm
wasn't
sure
black
there's
and
a
white,
few.
was it?
There's a few.
The George A. Romero one.
I think
I
that's
think
the
that.
one.
Oh,
I'm
maybe
talking
it's not
about.
black and white, but it's
Yeah.
like
It's
like
old. It's like
old.
80s or something.
Yeah.
And it's kind of that aesthetic. Like everything's burnt, red skies everywhere. And
Yeah,
I think that's the Zack Snyder one.
Oh, okay.
I think.
Anyway,
Ah.
I should stop talking.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, that whole feeling of the opening, I guess, you could point to different things specifically. Say maybe the music's not quite packing the same punch as the Walking Dead theme, but the main thing, at least for me, is just like the opening. It feels like just the opening of like a random middle episode in the
Yeah.
show. It doesn't
That's
feel
it,
like,
yeah.
all right, let's hook people in for the start of this new show, really get them on board. It's just like a random scene that's kind of okay. And then you're just like, oh, okay, here's the opening credits. Yep, all right. Guess this is it.
Yeah. More oh, go ahead.
No, go.
More so for me, this whole show, whenever it happens, is going to suffer from conveniences for the plot to move forward. Like, if you think about it, the only reason that the marshal knew to follow them to Manhattan was because Maggie happened to drop her book
Yeah.
on the car park
Yeah.
during the daytime, all the way, and it stayed there all the way through to nighttime with no one else picking it up and just going, "What is this?" and then just discarding it
He
somewhere
did
in the
some
bushes.
Sherlock Holmes work to actually work out exactly where on the map she would be going from the whole book.
Exactly, which that itself was pretty clever, but like the fact that the only reason is because of that book that was right there. That there's trash everywhere on the ground, and yet he stopped and just looked at that and thought, "Oh, let me pick this up." So I just things like that will annoy me
Yeah.
if this show continues to do things like that.
It takes the realism out, doesn't it?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess for me, it's just that whole idea of the marshal chasing them and stuff like that. Like, I'm just not enjoying that so much so far. I guess if I could pitch like just a slightly adjusted version of it would be to start with showing Herschel getting kidnapped. There's a group out there. All right, Negan, I need your help to try and track down this group. And I know that they live somewhere in Manhattan because there was a clue or whatever, or someone said something. And so then they go off on an adventure. They're looking through the city and sort of following a scavenger hunt, treasure hunt to try and find this group, following clues along the way, and different people tag on. But this just seems a lot more convoluted, and there's already all these gangs out there that just aren't interesting, and a bar that's got a whole community, and people have heard all these things from somewhere.
I will, if this isn't the case, then I think it would have worked well. I'll bet you. So Marshall Pearly says, I have a wife and 3 daughters, and they're my everything. I reckon he had a wife, and he's lied about that. And his wife was one of the magistrates that Negan killed, so it's a touch of revenge as well. Like, he's got the whole justice has to be served, but he's also really, really wanting to dish out that justice mighty cold.
I thought the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Thinking, Like, why is he being so specific about I have a wife and 2 daughters? Okay, there's a good chance that he's after Negan because Negan took out his wife potentially.
Well, it was also that, or I was thinking he's now established that he's a father and a husband. So then later on, when Maggie goes to like kill him from behind, I had that ringing in my ears of like Negan saying that. How many husbands and fathers have you killed? Like,
Yeah.
so I wondered whether that was to like, but yeah.
Mind you, I found that line of dialogue a little bit. I didn't think it was that great. Yeah, she would have killed quite a fair few. However, 9 times out of 10 from what we've seen, it's all from a position of self-defense, or more often than not, you look at her and go, cool, she's doing something to survive. There was a clear difference between the way Negan brutally beat up Glenn versus what Maggie would do. Yes, she killed people in cold blood. However,
Try explaining that to all the Maggie wives of all those husbands, you know.
Yeah, good point.
But yeah.
It just felt a bit off to me.
Yeah.
Like, how many husbands have you killed? Like, yeah, but I didn't beat them with a baseball bat in front of their partners, you silly goose.
Yeah, and laugh about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he was sorry, but he did say.
No exceptions.
One thing I do like is the idea that the main villain is like an ex-savior and he's trying to kind of do that again. That could go somewhere potentially interesting as far as Negan having a kind of, full circle face his past, but also like he's got then a little bit of inside knowledge of this bad guy and how crazy he is and what he's trying to do, and maybe he looks up to Negan as an idol. Like, there's sort of a few interesting things you could do with that. So that's kind of cool.
I like the idea of it, and I really dislike that I'm sounding so pessimistic, but it all feels like stuff that we've seen before. Like, Negan has faced his past in that awesome episode, Here's Negan.
Yeah.
We've had all these redeeming moments for Negan, and I'm sure I speak for a lot of the fan base when I say we go, yep, cool, like we're on board with Negan. Negan's on our side and we really like him now.
Yeah, he says that. I'm not the bad guy anymore.
Exactly, yeah. Like for us to then go, he has to confront his past. He has to earn Maggie's forgiveness. Like, this is all stuff we worked through throughout The Walking Dead. It's like, you couldn't have thought of something a little bit different? Yeah, yes, it's really cool that the new villain is an old savior. I like that. But the whole idea of Negan has to face his past... Oh, man, you could have come up with something better than that. That's lazy.
I guess probably actually what I meant when I said face his past. So I can't think of any better words for it at least, but it could be cool, like, because there's a part of the story that we haven't seen as much, which is him forming the saviors. And let's say this guy, who's the main villain now, is kind of halfway through that process, then he could sort of come from a place of understanding of like, oh yeah, I remember when and why I was trying to build an empire, and the points where I sort of got carried away with some different things. Like, I don't know, there's some stuff you could do there.
Yeah,
might be interesting.
And like one of those, like the villain meets their person they looked up to, and it's like, I thought you were so much better than you were, and like, you're just whatever, and it like makes them even more stir crazy because they feel like they've been lied to. And
old adage of never meet your heroes.
Yeah, pretty much. Here's a question for you guys. I don't even know what his name is, ex-savior guy. We've learned his name, but I just have no idea.
Baldy ear guy.
That's it, one ear. Nightmare for the props of the makeup department. But anyway, what was he torturing Herschel about? What does he want to know?
I don't know.
That's one of those things.
The worst thing is that I don't care.
Yeah. I get he's trying to like just scare him and mess with him as well, but it's like, please establish, because it's very quickly going to turn into that tropey thing of, you will tell me what I want to know. It's like, what?
Yeah. What is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good point. That's just another one of those things that they've skipped over. That's like, I get the idea of wanting to set up some questions in the audience's head, but I'm just not interested in that as a question.
I just don't buy it either. Like, if they've got the manpower to storm the hilltop, what do they take? All their grain or something?
Yeah.
Take her hostage. Like, they've clearly got numbers. They've clearly got strength, and they're organized. Yet they're interrogating this other prisoner. Like, tell us about your group. Like,
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Did Maggie say that they took a couple of hostages? Because I think
Did
it
she?
wasn't just Herschel.
Yeah, so probably that other guy escaping on the roof was from that same group, potentially.
Okay. Maybe. Because otherwise, yeah, I would have said, like, yeah, have them all clustered together in, like, a sea container or whatever, like, you know, confused and scared and all of that. But
Sea container.
Yeah.
I've done that before.
have they?
Terminus.
Yeah.
I thought that was a train carriage.
Oh, it was a train carriage.
Aha!
Right,
Superior
Come
fan.
on, they're similar. No, you're very right.
They
you're
did
very right.
the thing in Last of Us, the sea container, I think.
Oh,
In
yeah.
that pointless arc.
Oh, the trash people had sea containers.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. Redeemed.
Yes, that's still a real
What
fan.
episode though?
Yeah, what episode?
Oh, that's a tricky one. Yeah, no, you got me there.
Oi.
We also have them being referred to as groaners and chompers, which is new.
Oh, I didn't pick up on groaners.
Yeah.
Mm.
Negan is referred to as a groaner hunter, which is stupid, but
There you go.
There's. I'll bring this up for a sec with Fear, but they're both miles and miles better than what this new group call them in Fear the Walking Dead. So I don't mind moaners and grunters. That's kind of
yeah.
makes sense. They moan. They
Groaners and chompers.
grunt.
Yeah.
Oh, chompers. Sorry, they
Could-
chomp. They moan.
Yeah. I've always liked that. The different communities, they go, what's this? It's biting. And so the wood, people from Woodbury call them the biters.
Yeah.
Or, the walkers or the slimers, I think no. What do they get called at Oceanside? Like I don't know. But we have empties and we've got, the...
Yeah.
Oh,
Whatever.
Empties was well
No.
beyond, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was a
yeah.
cool name.
Yeah. So,
Um,
groaners, chompers, cool.
Yep. There you go.
What do they
There
call
you
them
go.
in Fear?
Well, there's this new group now of bad guys, and they call them Carrion.
Oh,
And-
wow.
I think they call everything. They call like everyone has like a bird name.
Yeah. Like a pigeon, carrying
Yeah.
pigeon.
Well,
yeah,
isn't
exactly
Carrion also
that.
roadkill? Like
Yeah,
in that
it's
context?
something like that. So there's
Yeah.
kind of something cool to it, but like
It's also like
it just sounds so stupid.
you're trying too hard.
Yeah, exactly. Trying too hard, like, oh, we've run out of every other name
Yeah.
in every other TV show. So, well, we've got to come up with something new. And so every time they say, oh, there's too many Carrion in there. Like, what?
Mm.
Yeah, there you go. Do you guys have any last thoughts on Dead City?
Just to
Yeah.
one
Go
kid.
through your notes.
I
yeah.
will, but to go off that last
Yeah.
one, one of the kids has like a comic book where he sees like zombies, like,
Hmm.
hey, we could call them zombies. Don't be stupid, kid. Like slaps him over the back. There. What a stupid name. For whatever stupid reason, my OCD, Maggie parks her car crooked over the parking lines. Like, just you've seen the parking bays right there. It's not hard to just steer into the.
Well, what I would say to that is that they were driving on the side of the road instead of in the middle. That always gets me in this show. Because back in season 4, most of the time I feel like they showed them driving on the road. There would be leaves everywhere and they'd be driving right in the middle of the road because there's no other cars around. So,
Oh,
might
so
as well.
nice.
But then I feel like that's been something later in the seasons with the budget or whatever. They couldn't afford to close the road off, so they have to obey all the road rules.
What? And get some random person just coming the other way.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. That might not be the reason, but it's just that I've noticed more in the later seasons they've been obeying the road rules when they really don't have to
Yeah.
in the logic of the show.
Really, my only other note was just on Negan in general. Like, whatever this show turns out to be, I think I will stick with it because it's got this star power behind it. World Beyond was a whole new cast and characters and everything, and even though some of them were cool and we got to like them in the first season, it wasn't enough to hold us into the second season when the writing started to go really bad. Even if the writing goes bad in this, I will still enjoy Jeffrey Dean Morgan
Yeah.
and Lauren
Yeah.
Cohen.
Good job.
got it.
There you go. So there's definitely that, and it's just absolutely ripe with opportunity for legacy characters to stroll on in for a
Yeah.
bit and then stroll on back out, like I said with Daryl or whoever. So yeah, I think having Negan is a very good addition, and I think however long they can keep him, great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Liam.
I'm excited. Well, that's not true. I'm
Yeah.
not that excited.
Liar.
Yeah. Like I'm keen to keep watching it, but after this episode, I'm also not expecting.
Expectations
Yeah,
set. Yeah.
they've really dropped after this
Yeah.
episode, but I'm still keen to watch it. More so, I love the idea of just hanging out with you guys, watching the show,
Sure.
having a good chat about it.
Yeah, definitely. I'll echo that for sure. That's the main thing. Yeah, more so that I'm looking forward to hanging out and then doing this and stuff like that. But if it was just me, then like I would keep watching, but it's the sort of thing where like I wouldn't rush to watch it on day one. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, when I get around to it, and maybe for a few weeks, like the episodes will pile up, and then I'll watch 2 or 3 and catch up. Like
Yeah.
it'd be one of those sort of shows probably.
Yeah, me too.
Could I suggest then that maybe we didn't really do this in our previous shows, but maybe if we could like hold on to a highlight. If
Yeah,
we could just try and
definitely.
think about something from the episode as each one comes along and go, that was my highlight in the thing,
Yeah.
whatever. If, it might be difficult sometimes, but, but
like it.
Have you got one to start us off?
I think the first bodies that started dropping whenever they just had no idea what was going on, and Negan's response to that I think was pretty great.
Yeah, yeah. I liked the cockroaches and
Ah.
just
Nope.
stuff like that. Yeah, no, bringing in like other non-zombie threats, or not that cockroaches are strictly a threat, but like
They carry disease.
yeah, well, true actually, yeah, and other inconveniences that the apocalypse would bring that happen to also affect your how you deal with a zombie threat, because you can't keep hiding behind a pile of trash if you're getting swarmed and covered with cockroaches. So it makes you have to run out and find a different thing to do. So yeah.
I like it. Mine would be Negan's swearing.
Uh,
I can't repeat the word for obvious reasons.
not on this show.
Exactly. But his use of a male appendage face. That
Oh, that's
that-
where you were going.
That was hilarious, I thought.
Oh, can we say that on this show?
we can bleep it, I guess. What, did that have a bleeper on it?
Oh,
I
it's
feel like
not.
we did
It's
at one
not
point.
worth it.
No, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Then we've got to go through the effort of changing it to an explicit show.
You've had
and-
Michael Satrazemis swear a bunch of times
Oh,
in the interviews.
true,
and-
yeah. Oh, we'll let those
Yeah.
slide. Special guest privileges.
Anyway.
But yeah,
No, yeah,
I
he-
thought that was hilarious.
Oh, yeah, that was great.
Yeah. Quality.
One quick note as well, I've just remembered. Right as Maggie and Negan meet, and he's got like a tire iron, and she's got the knife. He goes to take like a swing at her or something, and then like she holds the knife up against his throat. Another one of those like, what? You were just gonna hit Maggie? Like, did you not
Yeah.
recognize that it was her? Like,
Yeah.
that had to be the only reason, I guess. But like,
I don't know. It seemed like he knew who it was.
I don't know,
Yeah.
because that's just bonkers to
Yeah,
me.
now that you
Pardon
say
the
that.
pun, but
Yeah.
he was just gonna. What was that? Can you actually, Ben, just go find that on the?
Yeah. And like, why did she even get out of the car? Like, she could have
Yeah,
just
she just
stayed
stopped
there
the
and
car in
said,
front
"Hey,
of him."
wait, I
It's
need your
back
help."
a bit, yeah. Yeah.
And she clearly wasn't trying to run him over or anything like that. Because, I mean, if she was trying to, she did a terrible
Yeah,
job.
she was-
No, I think she was just trying to round them off, and then. I just.
Yeah.
Thought you were better on your feet.
Yeah, like, just get out of the
Yeah.
car. Hey, I'm not, you know.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's a good question.
Yeah, I hope they address that moving forward. 'Cause that's
They're
pretty
not
weird.
going to.
Oh.
That's my prediction, at least. They might. I'm happy to be proven wrong.
I had thought that enough time had passed that girl, was it Jenny or Ginny?
Ginny.
Okay.
It says
Yeah,
it in
yeah,
the
Ginny.
thing there.
I was gonna say great.
I thought that was his daughter grown up
Yeah,
like
so
that,
did
and how
I.
much
Yeah.
time had kind of passed, and then I wasn't sure, and I thought, yeah.
Who knows? Yeah. Well, there you go. We'll be back to talk more next week about Dead City.
Excellent.
Yeah. As far as fear goes, Do you guys care about spoilers? I'm assuming not.
I've actually got a note to ask you about some of these.
Okay. Well, let's
we
just
go.
say quickly for anyone listening, if you do care about fear spoilers up to season 8, episode 6, turn off now. But yeah, we're gonna
Oh yeah, spoilers
not
ahead.
hold back. Oh, spoilers. Yeah.
For everywhere,
We'll,
spoilers.
we'll get into it properly next week. What was your question, Isaac?
We started having dear Liam came over yesterday and was helping out with some of the studio build,
yeah.
and we got into a little bit of, well, we started to like a half a minute in about like just Well Beyond and Fear the Walking Dead and everything.
Yeah,
I was kind of like,
right,
no, I'll save it for
Oh, cool.
as far as like, you know, so you've got the flagship show, which is not Just Keep Walking, Walking Dead.
Well, of course,
It could
this
be
is
the
the flagship show.
Yeah, the official podcast.
Yeah.
And then the spin-off while the main show was happening, Fear the Walking Dead, right? And so you'd think from the name of it, like Fear the Walking Dead sounds like more of a horror spin on the main show, or like
You'd think so.
like it's
one would
something
think.
to be afraid of. Because Ben has often talked about, like, in the Walking Dead show, how it's really, you know, character focused, and like it's a drama really in the apocalypse, and then the zombies or the walkers are sort of secondary, and there's like a nice mix of thrilling and horror into that, but it's not strictly about horror, which I agree with. I think that's great. But then you hear Fear the Walking Dead, and I thought, oh, so this is like the haven for all those bloodthirsty viewers who just want to see zombie battles and gore and everything. But it's not that, is it?
Not at all.
Yeah.
Like at some parts, it's equal to the main show, where it's like, you know, you've got a scarier episode here and there, but like overall, especially from like season 4 onwards, I would say it's far less scary than the main show, and far more focused on like literally there's like a whole community of kids for half a season. It's like silly stuff. So
So good.
Like Little
Yeah.
Rascals type thing.
not quite, but sometimes it feels like it's good. no, not quite, but like,
Okay.
yeah, just kiddie, silly stuff. Yeah, definitely doesn't quite. Yeah, I guess that's the whole thing with this show is I don't think many people like the title from the start anyway. It doesn't really make much sense. It's just kind of a name that sounds good and might get people to click on it, but yeah, sort of from season 4, that's when Morgan came in and they just completely reinvented it because it was kind of going downhill as far as no one was really watching it. So they thought, let's just try something else. So they brought Morgan in and
Did
people
him
hated
dirty.
that even more.
Yep.
Oh, really?
They did him so dirty.
Oh.
For like a few episodes, it was all right, but the few fans that there were of the original show, then they were like, "Why have you gone and ruined that?"
Yeah.
And they didn't bring in much. Like the writing just got so bad.
'Cause that's a
with the
similar
exception of
thing.
A few episodes.
Pardon me, like, because I remember I saw one episode of that entire show,
Yeah.
and that was one you showed me that was actually a pretty good episode with
Yeah,
Morgan
that was
and
all right.
another marshal or someone.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Again, even that sort of stuff. It's like, oh.
Whatever. But yeah, like I thought that was like one of the benchmarks for how the show was going to be, but how wrong I was.
Yeah, that's definitely like the highlight, or one of the highlights of sort of the better part of the show. So there's bits and pieces here and there, but anyways, just to recap here on where it's at the moment, pretty much they're doing 12 episodes. This is the final season now, so it's just had the mid-season finale today. And I guess they're committing to 6 episode structures. The Dead City is going to be 6 episodes, and same with Rick and Michonne, I think. So, yeah, for some reason, there we go. But basically, they've now wrapped up Morgan's story, and it looks like the next 6 episodes are going to kind of more focus on the original characters, those who are left, and try and give that a semi-satisfying conclusion for that show, rather than it just being the Morgan show, which I think lots of people were upset about.
Yeah.
So there's one, probably, if you're inside on a rainy day and you're looking for something to watch, there's an episode, it's called King County, where he actually goes back to King County to like put down Dwayne, and it's basically just like a nostalgia thing for the first episode of the main show.
Wow.
But it's kind of cool, and lots of references to Rick and all that stuff.
Not Dwight? Is Dwight still on the show?
Dwight's still in it. Yeah, well, him and Sherry are in that one as well. So, yeah, if you're after just something random, that's like, it's not a good episode, but it's like, at least it's a bit of nostalgia, and it's like, oh, that's kind of cool to see. and probably the effects and sets are done better in that one than a lot of the others. But, yeah. So that's one worth checking out. It's the kind of thing where it's exactly what you'd expect it to be, but it's all right. And they essentially left it off in the episode that aired today with him. He went back to Eastman's grave, and they just did all the callbacks they could do. And now he's going off looking for Rick, and he's did the thing on the walkie saying, Rick, I don't know if you're out there, but I'm going to turn the walkie on every day at noon and leave it on like from the first season. So at the very least, there's callbacks, but that does, I guess, set up the question of, are they hoping or planning to do an end game and pull all the shows together, or is that just going to be an open-ended thing that never comes back?
That's kind of scary though. Like if they've gone so far off the rails and then get everyone back.
Yeah.
I'm kind of apprehensive as to what that would look like.
Because the whole thing, if you don't mind me saying, seems to be just like mismanaged.
Oh,
in a way,
absolutely.
Oh yeah.
where it's like you've got this cool idea of like a what is reasonably untapped as far as like a zombie TV show. I can't really think of many others, if any others.
Especially that take it seriously. It's set in the real world. The only thing that's not real is zombies. That's at least the idea they started with.
Pretty much. And so it's like if you think about all of the resources and like the budget that they allocated to something like Fear the Walking Dead and like World Beyond, I suppose. And it's like, imagine if the actual show had just had all of that budget.
Yeah.
I forget exact examples, but like definite parts where we're like, you can really see where the budget was suffering there and they didn't have the money to do this and this. So, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, though, I guess one thing I will say, and this is definitely, it stands out in Fear more than anything, is that particularly this latest season, it actually doesn't feel too low budget as far as what they've put in there. It looks pretty good. The sets are pretty decent. It's obvious that, they're sticking to just shooting in the forest and locations that are easy to make them look good. But it actually looks and feels all right for the most part. And the acting as well, a lot of people have said like the show definitely doesn't deserve the actors it's got, because especially the Lenny James from Morgan and a lot of the other actors are really like they're bringing their A game to a terrible script. So they've got a lot to work with, but you can see it's just the writing is just terrible. Either the writers are stupid or they think the audience is stupid. Like there's pretty much no other way to look at it. Because it's just every other second there's something that just doesn't make any sense. Every plot twist that's supposed to be like a big deal, if you think about it for more than 5 seconds, it doesn't hold up. Yeah, so it's just a bit weird that like that's the kind of thing you don't really have to spend a whole lot of money on, is writing a script. Well, you obviously have to pay good writers, but an idea costs nothing, and taking a bit of time to think through something and
well, the fact that like AI can write scripts now, some of them are actually pretty good. It's like, I don't know. Yeah.
Like the idea of bad writing is like, you hear that so much now. It really frustrates me because I look at that and go, that's not an excuse. Like if you've written something poorly, the people who have okayed this, how did you get into the position you're in? Good point. This is absolutely abysmal, and you're okay pumping that out just to try and make some money? It's shocking. How does all this bad writing get accepted?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's some things like, if you do watch the King County episode, there's a scene, for whatever reason, in just that episode, Dwight and Sherry are like working for the bad guys and looking for Morgan. And they're like, the way they're positioned, they like arrive on the street and they can clearly see them. And then Morgan and the people who are with him go and like hide. And I was like, well, they already saw them because we saw a shot of him looking down the street, and then like they don't see them, and the way the car's angled that they're hiding behind wouldn't even hide that. Like there's stuff like that where if it's blocking and they just ran out of time on the set, you can kind of understand like, okay, I guess they just ran out of time that day, and it's a TV show, so they can't go back and reshoot because they've only got a week to film it. You can kind of find excuses, but yeah, when it's script stuff that anyone watching it could think through it for like 10 seconds and think of an instantly better way to do the scene, like,
That's 100% right. Like that stuff you can offer some grace to and go, yep, I can see how this could have turned out that way. But when it's writing, you're like, no.
Yeah.
Surely someone would have read that and went, this is not okay. Like, scrap all of it, go back to the start. Like, I can't understand how, like, is it a time constraint where they get the script and go, well, this is all we've got to work with now. We can't afford to pay.
Like, it could be something like that.
But yeah, I look at it and go, man, that's such a cop-out excuse.
It is.
The writing sucks.
To play a little bit devil's advocate,
Yeah,
like,
go for it,
also imagine having a job like that where it's like every single idea you have, you've got some, Simpsons comic book guy going, that was already done in this and this rendition, pick something else. It's like, you're trying your hardest to make these sorts of things work, and it just gets like ripped to shreds by people who just like always have better ideas than you. But I can't imagine it's easy.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I would agree, and I'd say it's not easy. However, there's a strong difference between like bad writing and what you're describing, if that makes sense.
Like something that's hacky or something that's
cliched.
cliched.
If you've got like critics who are like, take us for example with The Walking Dead. We all know the lore fairly well. I would like to say we're going to critique it because one, we're very passionate about it, but also that's what we do on this podcast.
Right.
So no one's going to be shocked by that. But if you've got a viewer base that is absolutely plummeting, and you've got people who this isn't really their bread and butter, they're not really savvy when it comes to, oh, that's bad writing. If they turn around and say, this show sucks, that to me screams, because it's poorly written. Like that doesn't really hold up then. If you've got people who will critique it because they're good at critiquing, that's one thing, and that's par for the course. But if you've got a viewer base who just aren't interested, I think you got to ask yourself some questions then, like, oh, how is my writing going?
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because it's not so much about what they do for me, it's about what they say. And like I'll get hung up on the silliest little things, like even at the start, like Negan takes off his jacket like in the back of the car and he goes to give it to the girl. Fine, that's nice and that's caring, that's a nice act. But what does he say? Here you go. Like get warm or something like that. Like who would say that to someone?
One thing I can say to defend that is that it seemed like he was trying to make sure Maggie heard that, so that she would see him as not such a bad guy, and then she like slammed the window closed of like, oh, that's not going to work on me.
Okay.
That's maybe a defense of the scene, but
like you just had to have him like glance over at Maggie, and then that would have made sense.
Sure.
So
I didn't pick up
a
on
close up of the rear view mirror. There you go.
there you go.
See, I was more along the same lines as you. I'm like, oh, he literally only said that because it was written in so Maggie could get frustrated. Yeah.
Oh, like, Ben sniffly nose, and so I pass him a tissue box. Here's a tissue box. Like, you don't.
There you go. Get better soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. But anyways, at the very least, I will say, Fear is aesthetically pleasing at the moment. That it's got that going for it, and at least even with Dead City, we're still getting something. Maybe it's better than nothing, maybe not, but I'll take it at this point. So
I'll say it right now. Whatever that freakish, like, xenomorph zombie type thing is in the trailer with multiple arms and whatever it is, whatever the lead up is to that, I am looking forward to it.
Okay.
We're not haters on this show or
sure.
just in general. So it's like, our disappointments are with what we know has the potential to be great. So
exactly.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely. I'm in the same boat.
Nice. There we go.
Turnsounds@gmail.com.
That's it. That's where you go if you want to flick us a message or just keep walking on Instagram. We've had some weird issues with the accounts and stuff like that, so we'll try and get it back to being called Just Keep Walking. But still, if you search it, it'll be it'll still be at Just Keep Walking, but it might say Isaac Anthony.
I'm so sorry.
It's not your fault. It's we'll blame Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
There's something weird's changed in the algorithm, but that's all right.
Ah.
There we go. But yeah, definitely flick us a message there if you want to get in touch. We'd definitely be keen for your thoughts, and especially any positive thoughts are always welcome. So if not, we'll see you next week, and looking forward to it. I've been Ben.
Sometimes Liam.
And I'm mostly Isaac.
Awesome. And just keep walking.